Hey YouTube, how's it going today? Back for another week in review in the wonderful world of sports cards for what's been going on, prices, interesting news bits, etc. Um, First off, if there's any weird background noise on this, my neighbor has decided that this is a good time to power wash his driveway. I'm not sure if the mic will pick it up or not. I'll try to remove it in post, so hopefully you guys don't hear it. Secondly, just wanted to thank everyone for, if I haven't already, for getting well over 100 subs. We blew through it a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago, earlier this week, right after the 4th of July. Um, so thank you for that, everybody. Keep doing what you're doing. Do the old, like, comment, sub for the YouTube shenanigans. Helps makes the channel more visible and brings more eyes to us. So if we get enough subscribers, I would like to maybe start doing like live chats. Maybe once or twice a week, just kind of set up, have you guys get in chat, and we'll just kind of talk about whatever everyone wants to talk about. Just kind of shoot shit. So, but let's get into this week. The first thing I have to talk about is what is on the screen right now. I saw this pop up a few days ago, and this is nothing in any of our price ranges, but man, would this be a fun thing to think about. So, this Collect Auctions, which does a lot of high end sports memorabilia, has coming up a sealed case of 86-87 Fleer. Um, so the Jordan rookie and a crap ton of other guys. This is the holiest of holy grails, in my opinion, in the sports card world, in any sport, period. Um, I don't know if it's in like mantle territory. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But on the basketball side of things, this is as big as it gets. Um, this is insane that there is still a sealed case of this stuff floating around. I have not done any background research on this to see where this was located, um, or if someone found this or what the deal is. But whew, I bet you this gets close to 2 million, maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. I have literally no idea. But this would be. I mean, if you bought this to sit on it, this feels like one of the safest investments in sports cards. But if you bought this to rip it, man, what a freaking rip that would be. I've been joking around that if I rip this, I would just ask to rent out the PSA conference room for the afternoon and just slide the cards directly to them as they came out of the pack. Um, but yeah, I'll keep an eye on this and see what it ends at because I'm curious. It actually goes up. The auction starts on July 13th and it runs for about a week or so, I think. But yeah, opening bid is $250,000, and it's going to go for way more than that. Like I said, I think my guess is that this ends up around 2 million bucks, easy, maybe more. This is just an insane find, and the box actually looks like in pretty good shape, all things considered. That this is, 25 years old almost. Um, Tape's looking a little rough, but the box itself looks like it's in still pretty good shape. I don't know how it was stored or anything, but yeah. So I thought that was a fun one. Um, I don't have a picture or anything to pull up on the screen, but I've mentioned Gary Vee before on the channel. He has been tweeting and IGing a lot about vintage basketball cards a lot this week. So he has been on a vintage buying spree. I personally do not follow the vintage market very closely, so I don't know if he's had a drastic impact on their prices like he does the modern market. I think most of his audience likes to deal with modern players, so I'm not sure if he moves the market quite as much on the vintage side of things, but I'm sure it has had some sort of impact. But he is still actively talking about sports cards the last few weeks. He pops in I'm in the sports card investors, the SCI Discord. He pops in there every once in a while to chat. But as of right now, he is strictly looking at vintage stuff. So, in the world of modern basketball cards, and it's primarily what we're going to talk about today is basketball. That's mostly what I tend to deal with. I got the chart here for good old Luka. I've just been keeping a close eye on these PSA 10s, waiting for him to crack $1,000, and this is the last 7 days worth of data, and you can see that this chart is still going right on up. If we scroll down here, you can see the week started with a high, or with an average of about $830 and ended with an average of about $885. So it's gone up $50, another $50 this week. I'm guessing by the time the playoffs start, this is a $1,000 card. And then, like I said in previous videos, if they win a round, this is a $1,500 card. If they win 2 rounds, it's an over $1,500 card, I think, personally. Just depends on what the Mavs do in the playoffs. I'll talk about it here briefly, but I feel like this is almost its own video. So, pop counts. People love to talk about the pop counts on the Luka card. There's 11,000 PSA 10s. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things. So I don't think this pop count number is actually that high when you factor in that basketball is a global market. I don't want to completely derail this video by deep diving into this. It needs to be its own separate thing. But when you talk about the demand for basketball cards versus the other sports and the fact that it is a global market, this is not that big of a number, guys. Don't freak out about this. Zion has already passed this up, I think, on his PSA 10 base Prizms. But regardless, Luka is creeping towards $1,000. He's going to be there before the season restarts. That is my best guess. So moving on down the line, here's another one of our hottest players right now. That is Jayson Tatum. His base Prizm price is still relatively the same. Actually, we'll look real quick. I'll add that to this graph. Sorry, little on-the-fly adjustments here, gentlemen. So, you can see his base Prizm price has stayed relatively flat, while the silver has really gone up this last week. Look at this down here. His base price has gone up only 5% over the last 7 days. His silver price has gone up 25% over the last 7 days. Now, only 7 have sold, but the pop count is extremely low on this. There's only 560 of them. So there's not usually a lot of sales on these, but his silver price has just gone nuts. This base price has been hanging around $6 to $650 for a while, give or take. It's slowly creeping up. And I think it will continue to slowly creep up, and then I expect it to take a spike if he plays well in the playoffs, just like any player. But the thing that's notable this week is his Prizm price, or his silver price, has just gone crazy. So next up, this is a good one. This is a chart on, and this one goes back to May because of the way the charting software works on Wax. This is the chart for sealed retail Prizm boxes of 1920. I will tell you, I personally bought 2 of these back in, when was that? The winter. Let's say January or February. For around $175 a pop. Zion came back. They went bonkers. They jumped up to about $275 to $300, and then they crept over $300, and they've been around $300 to $325 for a while now. You can see on this chart goes back to May. At the beginning or the end of May, they were $332 a box, and they basically, went up, went down, but essentially stayed low 300s. Well, then the last 7 days happened. They went from the low 300s up to $420 a box. I know my local LCS, which is about 20 minutes for me, the one that I typically go to, they had them a week ago for $320 a box. I inquired yesterday how much they were a box. They are now $400 a box. They jumped $80 in the last week. And a lot of that has been driven by Zion prices, and Ja prices have gone up quite a bit the last 7 to 14 days. And Wax usually lags a little bit behind. But yeah, Prizm Wax prices have gone off the scale the last week. They are up This is 27%, $89 since the end of May. But to be honest, almost all of this movement has been in the last 7 days. If you look July 2nd, they were averaging 335 a box, 330 a box, 367 a box on July 6th, 379 a box on July 7th, 385, and now over 400 um, on July 9th was the last day that this chart shows. So yeah, sealed wax, one of the safest investments that there is when it comes to sports cards. And then the last one we have on our list, this is just a lower dollar one. And once again, this chart goes back a little bit further than normal in the last 7 days, but this player has escalated a lot in the last 7 days. And this is Karis Levert. Um, his stuff started the week at about $10 to $12 for a base Prizm, and has ended the week at almost $18. And it'll probably be over 20 by the time you guys see this video. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of this is being driven by the Nets roster is basically Karis Levert and nobody else. Because Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, none of those can go to the bubble due to injuries and or choice. So Levert's going to be a one-man show for the 8-game run-up to the playoffs. And even with their gimped roster, they are probably still going to make the playoffs because the Wizards roster is just as gimped. And they are the only ones in the East that could catch them. So he's going to get a playoff series as well. And he was putting up monster numbers prior to the stoppage. I play a lot of NBA DFS, and he was just putting up huge numbers in DFS every single night. And he is essentially going to get all of their usage in the playoffs and probably put up some big numbers that could spike his price again. So there's been a big run up on his stuff as well. That's part of the reason why in one of the previous videos you guys saw, I talked about buying up some Jarrett Allen stuff. I don't think he has as much flash, but his cards are way cheaper. You can get them for about $1 a card, so there's little risk involved. Not that there's much risk in Levert, given current NBA prices. A $15 Prizm rookie is fairly low, but yeah, keep looking for those edges as news comes out. Be aware and pick up the player that stands to benefit from the news if someone's out. One of these guys tests positive, whatever. Um, get ready to make that adjustment and pick up the next guy up. If it's someone that could put up numbers, don't just blindly pick someone up, but do your research and pay attention and know what happens to the rotations when one of these guys go out. And if it's a young guy that you think has good long-term potential, that way if you're stuck with them, it's not the end of the world, but could also be quote-unquote a quick flip if you buy him for $1 or $2 a card, like the Jarrett Allen's. He has a big 3-week run where he's putting up 20 and 10 or whatever, and maybe at the end of it they're $5 a card. And then I would look to move those immediately. Don't hold into next year because this stuff's only going to go down. So just a quick way to build your bankroll smaller. But that's all I got for you guys this week. Once again, like, comment, sub, all the YouTube stuff down below, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.